I'm still thinking about suffering in relation to morals and human experience and development and flourishing and all those kind of things. And I think if I had the option, I wouldn't want to get rid of all suffering. And by suffering, I should just qualify what I mean by that. I don't just mean, these moments of pain, when you get a tack in the sole of your foot or when you stub your toe. I'm talking about all suffering, including, the feeling of fullness after you've eaten something, or boredom, or a slight feeling of discomfort that you might have when you're in a social situation, or a heart attack, or gangrene, and the whole gamut of negative experience. I wouldn't want to get rid of all of that. What I would want to do, though, is make it consensual. I think I would take the same approach to suffering as moralists take to sex. It's reasonably okay as long as it's consensual, doesn't frighten the horses or something, because consensual suffering is fine, I think, and there's lots of it about. I engage in it all the bloody time. Well, not all the time, but I do engage in it. I walk further than I should and tire myself out, or I don't know, just daft things like that. I've had tattoos. It's a form of consensual suffering, isn't it? You go through this experience because the overall shape of the experience, with the suffering and the other kind of landmarks that mark out that total experience, make it worth it and actually give it kind of shape. A tattoo, for example, correct me if I'm wrong, if other people have got tattoos, it wouldn't be nearly as interesting if it didn't have the little bit of pain attached to it. It's part of the overall, it's one of the splashes of paint on the canvas of that experience. That can be ridiculously hyperbolic. So I wouldn't want to get rid of that, and I wouldn't want to get rid of it in terms of personal development. If I choose to develop myself in some way, whether that be physically, by going to the gym and really fucking sweating my bollocks off or whatever, then I would like to, I think that's fine. I probably would come out of that experience overall feeling better and being some kind of better person, whatever that means. But also other kinds of sufferings and other kinds of personal development experiences. The strain and the occasional boredom of trying to educate yourself is a form of suffering that I wouldn't want to get rid of entirely, because it's so nice when it stops, or that's the mountain of stuff that you climb over, and if you don't climb over the mountain, you haven't, I don't know, I'm not, my metaphor struggling here, but you haven't reached the peak, you know what I mean? If the mountain isn't steep, you don't get up there, or something, yeah. So I wouldn't want to get rid of that, but again, it has to be consensual. It's a bit of a shame that the educational systems aren't more consensual than they are. And of course things like martyrdoms and sacrifice. I think it's a real shame that they're ever necessary, but I would hate to stop the possibility of people sacrificing, and I don't mean necessarily the big sacrifices, just sending a few quid through PayPal to someone you admire who's going through hard times, or dropping a few coins in a charity box, which is a small moment of negative experience, isn't it? You're giving away something of yourself. But also the much larger one, giving away everything, dedicating your life to something, going through hell and high water to right some social wrong, or to help someone who's in distress, those kinds of things. And even martyrdom to the point of death, again, provided it's consensual, and it's informed consent. A lot of martyrdoms, I think, are consensual, but they're not really informed consent, are they? I guess I'm thinking about teenage suicide bombers. It's consensual, but is that really informed consent? So yeah, I'm just trying to think of some other examples of, and things like fighting even, you know what I mean? I'm not a violent person, but I don't have any real problem with consensual fighting. Things like, I've seen Fight Club dozens of times, so I can kind of imagine things like Fight Club not being a real problem for those involved, providing it doesn't have knock-on effects on other parts of their lives and their relationships outside of the club or whatever, and it always stays consensual. I think it's absolutely fine. In fact, I'd like more consensual suffering, if anything, rather than less. I would like it to be a bit, I'd like it to be a bit slightly frowned upon if people didn't agree to suffer occasionally. Because quite often many of us, and including myself here, I think, I've quite a soft life. I'm thinking about Paul's Egos video actually here. And don't do an awful lot. And don't help each other out very much. And don't go out of our way to make the world a remotely better place or something, you know what I mean? And we should be regarded as chicken shit for not doing more. That should be the way it's looked upon. But at the moment it's not, because suffering is kind of associated with bad luck or bad genes or being born in a bad place or having a bad biology or a bad psychology. It's not associated with anything positive, really. Very rarely associated with anything positive. But I think if it's consensual, it could be. And